She was a happy baby, always smiling, always curious about stuff. She was wonderful. She was just a wonderful baby. We keep telling her not to leave her by herself. Not only me, my friend across the street too, but she always be here by herself.
We just couldn't believe that she was gone.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. Those are the neighbors of 31-year-old Kristel Candelario. She's the Ohio mother who allegedly left her 16-month-old daughter, Jaylyn, home alone while she went on a 10-day-long vacation. And after she finally returned home, Candelario found her daughter unresponsive. Shocking, right? Well, baby Jaylyn had died in the home where she was left, surrounded by dirty blankets soiled with urine and feces, and left inside of a pack-and-play. Police say that the poor child was severely dehydrated at the time of her death. And now Candelario, the baby's mother, is indicted by a grand jury for murder, felonious assault, and endangering the welfare of her child. And while this case is sickening, unfortunately, it's not the first time we've seen a case like this play out here on Court TV. In fact, we've seen facts and circumstances quite similar. You may remember our wonderful courties who were with us since day one. Remember the case of Cheyenne Harris back in 2019, the year we relaunched? Harris found guilty of first-degree murder and child endangerment after her 4-month-old son was found dead in his baby swing, abandoned in the back room of their apartment for 9 to 14 days with no food or water and never changed. The child had skin infected from sitting in his feces and his diaper filled with maggots. Little baby Sterling. In the case, it was determined that little baby Sterling died of malnutrition, dehydration, E. coli entered his bloodstream through his infected skin. But in the case of baby Jaylyn in Cleveland, there's no cause of death or autopsy results being released yet. So we don't know exactly what it is. But this morning, we want to bring in our own expert to talk about what that baby's cause of death might have been and talk about proving this case at trial. I'm going to bring in our expert this morning. He's standing by in Toledo, Ohio. He is a physician and professor, Dr. Jason Smith. Good morning to you, my friend. Wonderful to see you on this Wednesday. I hate that we have to talk about cases like this, but we do. The state of Ohio is going to have to bring in someone like yourself to talk about how this baby died. So, Dr. J, go into professor mode for us. Pretend like we're your students in the class. How do you think this happened, please?
Yeah, Julie, good morning. Good morning, Courties. You know, this is, again, disturbing and I would almost argue confusing. Who would think that it would be safe to leave a 16-month-old baby in a pack and play for any period of time, especially up to 10 days? You know, when we look at a case like this, we are, again, postulating how this child may have passed, sadly and tragically. And I do think that dehydration, heat illness, had to play a factor. Obviously, we will be waiting for the coroner's final report. But, you know, this is a situation where a child is essentially caged in that pack and play. She has no access to food or water. And I think very quickly, especially in a child at that age, dehydration will set in like immediately. We're talking about in a day to 2 days. And this is not by any way, shape, or form a comfortable way to live or, unfortunately, how Jaylyn passed.
Certainly not, Dr. J. I have a really unpleasant question to ask you, but it's a critical question. In your opinion, did baby Jaylyn suffer before she died?
She tragically suffered, and she suffered quite a bit. I mean, this will be a child that was undoubtedly crying, sitting in her own urine, her own feces, and she did not cry short periods of time. She cried until she could not cry anymore. And it is heartbreaking to think of this and this tragic way that a child should die, because it should never happen.
Dr. J, when we think about this period of time, 10 days, you have to wonder how soon into that 10-day period might that horrible suffering have ended? If you had to put forth your best educated guess on that, what would it be and why, please?
Yeah, I'm not going to play corner in this situation because I really don't know, but I would venture to guess it would have been sooner than later. This 16-month-old cannot sustain without water, without nutrition for a very long period of time.
Oh, it is so heartbreaking. Dr. J, stand by. I want to also bring in our other guest we have on the show this morning, criminal defense attorney Greg Isaacs, standing by in Knoxville, Tennessee, where he practices. Certainly no stranger to high-profile criminal cases. We watched Greg in action on Court TV. Greg, talk to me, please, about what the state is coming with against Kristel Candelario. Here, you can't think there was any other intention than to kill a baby, right? If you walk away for 10 days, it's not like 10 minutes. How do you see this case playing out for her? We know she's going to be in court this morning, 9 a.m. for one of her pretrial hearings. How do you think this is going to go, please?
Well, it's going to go poorly, and if you're the defense lawyer in a case like this, you are going to scratch your head in terms of what can I do to zealously represent somebody that presents as depraved, as a mommy/monster. You see cases where someone leaves a child unattended for a short period of time in a car overnight, but it is very rare to see someone abandon a child for a period of time and return. It's almost a slow torture. It is premeditated. It is planned. So if I'm the defense lawyer, I'm going to try to confront the medicine with the mens rea, with experts that can put this behavior in some sort of context. Was there a mental disease or defect? But Julie, the problem is to find someone that could say she had a substantial mental disease or defect that prohibited her from controlling her conduct and her actions. When you juxtapose the fact she was on vacation for 10 days. So I think this is one where you really have a hard time coming up with a defense because the medicine is against you, the facts, the sympathy are against you. So a very, very tough hurdle for the defense.
Certainly, Greg. When we think about how this child had to suffer and endure such a tremendous amount of pain, Dr. J, I want to go back to you and pick your brain on something, please. When I was thinking about this case and how awful it is when we all know babies are helpless, they rely on adults to care for them, and this child had no one to turn to because mom abandoned her, according to police in Cuyahoga County. Would an adult last longer in a situation with no food and water than a baby, Dr. J?
Yeah, absolutely, Julie. I mean, we know adults can last for a week to 10 days without hydration, without water. And it's just the amount of water content we have in our body. Dehydration comes and you can be more malnourished than dehydrated, meaning that you can go longer without food than you can go without water. And in any situation, this is just not a tenable situation for life.
No. Thank you, Dr. J. Greg Isaacs, let me go back to you on something. You've been involved in capital cases. I see this one having potential to become one in Ohio. Ohio is still currently a death penalty state. If you were tasked with representing Kristel Candelario, would you be concerned that that could be what's coming next from the prosecution?
Absolutely. These are terrible facts. We see cases all the time where people treat pets and animals in this manner and receive harsh sentences. To treat your own child like this, clearly, if you're a prosecutor, you have to consider whether the death penalty is the appropriate mechanism, the appropriate punishment, the ultimate punishment. Because this was a torture. This was heinous. It was atrocious and cruel. It actually fits the aggravating factors that the state would have to prove to achieve a sentence of death. So, if I'm the defense, you have to deep dive this person from childhood forward to see how this mother morphed into a monster. But if I am that prosecution's office, I am having meetings right now, making a determination whether I file that notice.
Most definitely, Greg. And, you know, I wonder, depending on whether they file the notice, maybe that may force a plea if she did what the state of Ohio says that she did. This is just a dreadful case, as you both know, and we're going to continue following it. 9 a.m. Eastern time, Kristel Candelario is going to be in court in Cleveland. We're going to keep everybody posted on any updates we learn from that hearing. Big thank you to our guests this morning, physician and professor Dr. Jason Smith and criminal defense attorney Greg Isaacs. Thank you kindly for lending us your time and expertise this morning.